Hello, this is Creole Can. I'm going to talk about wild game animals, in this case, pork. Quite a few of my friends, co-workers, some people I know over the course of years, they always ask me, Ken, if you hunt hogs or you hunt deer, what do you do? And I made this video to kind of give you the fruits of our games of hunting, or in this case, trapping a wild pig. This is a ham that came off this wild boar that I trapped. This wild boar, what I've done on this one here is I quartered this animal out to 2 shoulders, 2 hams, back straps or top loin. I was too lazy. I didn't go and get the tenderloins because I skinned this thing on the top of my tailgate. Pretty much once you get the animal processed and dressed out and separated, you want to get this thing you want to get this thing game iced down as quick as possible. So I built a bit of ice in a chest with the meats on top of the ice for more wet ice. And what you do is you soak this thing down in ice water, or it's just ice, for about maybe 4 or 5 days. What that does, it helps drain the blood, the gaminess, and it helps release the muscle, which is the meat. And it makes it a better product before you start cooking, or in this case, before you start brining the animal out in your brine solution. I don't typically cook with recipes, but for a brine, you need to use a recipe. My recipe is very simple, and I'm going to show it to you. Everything that you see back there is what I use in my brine. Take away this extra bag of pink salt. That right there is what you see, plus some sugar, which is not present. So pretty much to build my brine, I use 1 cup of salt. I typically start out with natural sea salt, and I also sometimes use kosher salt. Here, I was pretty much low, so I had to use kosher salt for most of the brine. For the curing, we use what's called salt number 1, or cure number 1. This is a pink salt. It's pink on the cover. I don't know if this camera is showing you that picture real good, but it's got a pink hue to it. This is not Himalaya pink salt. This is a curing salt. Do not confuse the two. I've been playing around with garlic, black pepper. Being that I'm from Louisiana, I gotta throw in some cayenne. And only other thing, like I said earlier, that you don't see here is sugar. So let me give you this recipe. 1 teaspoon of pink salt, a cup of regular sea salt. I use approximately about a cup of sugar, give or take, white, brown, doesn't matter. I'm not racist. Any color will work. And what you do is you take and mix all that along with whatever other seasoning that you want to add in the brine. You want to throw some thyme in there, sage, whatever. And what you do is you stir this up with a half a gallon of water. The key thing there, you got to fully dissolve the components in the water. In this particular game animal, I built a gallon worth of this brine because I had more pieces to go in my brining bucket. And the key thing is you need to make sure that meat stays submerged in the brine, fully submerged. You don't want no part exposed out of the brine. And what I do is I brine my stuff for about 4 to 5 days. In this case, I did it for 4 days. And every 24 hours, I would flip the meat over and agitate the brine, and just kept on doing that every 24 hours. After it's been soaking in this brine bath, you take the meat out, and what you do is you rinse off the brine. Another tip, and I forgot to do this due to my either oversight, incompetence, or whatever, I got distracted. If you don't want a lot of salt in the meat from the brine, water soak the meat in ice chilled water for about maybe 35 minutes, 45 minutes. Just make a little bath. I can use a middle tub and just put some ice water in there and let the meat soak in that. What that does, it frees and releases the salt, the excessive salt from the brine. If you don't do that, typically the meats come out a little bit more salted in flavor. This particular ham was a little bit more salt than what I expected, and that's because I didn't water soak it again my incompetence, I forgot that part. Actually, I put the bath on the counter, got distracted, and by the time I realized it, it was already in the oven, and it was already, or in this case, it was already getting the rub on. I went ahead and did it without actually putting the water bath on. For my dry rub, we use a bit of onion powder, more cayenne, ground black pepper, and being that I'm from Louisiana, we got Creole seasoning. Anything you can use, you can use. Sometimes if I don't have Creole seasoning, I'll end up using some Cajun powder, Cajun Creole combination, but it doesn't matter. They all work good. You have to pretty much do what you think is perfect for you. I don't build a recipe, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I don't build a recipe, and I'm not going to give a recipe. If you've been cooking for quite a few decades, you know you can eyeball what you want. A lot of times, we just build seasonings and rubs out, dry rubs out, just basically by the look. I use the old saying, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you know what you're doing. So I don't actually build recipes. This particular ham had the dry rub on for about 30 hours, fully wrapped in some clean wrap, left in the refrigerator. So before I even put it in the oven, it sat in the refrigerator for about 30 hours, wrapped, to allow that seasoning to basically condition the meat and to add the flavor of the seasoning within the meat. The ham was cooked for about 2.5 hours, unwrapped. Then for the remaining, let's say 45, 35 minutes, I wrapped it in aluminum. I added a little bit of orange juice in here, some additional garlic, and that was going to help to get some of that salt from the brine extracted from the meat. It's a little bit salted, but not excessive salted. But for me, it has too much salt because I don't really cook with salt. And for vegetables here, I just did something real simple. We built some golden potatoes, threw in some carrots, some champignons, and some onions. And I left this in the oven and let this cook out. I also threw in these little red, they call them sugar bomb tomatoes. I've been experimenting with these tomatoes. They're kind of sweet, about as sweet as a Campari's. But that made up my little vegetable platter here. And I'll be chowing down on this for today, for lunch, and also for dinner. And this is how we do and process wild boar. You'll find out for this meat, compared to a domesticated pig, in my opinion, is just as good or better than a store-bought. Anything store-bought, this day will beat it. The flavor on this is very good. It's very tender. It's moist. It has the color complexion of that like corned beef. You might even think it's turkey, but it's actually, this is pork. This is a free roaming animal, so it's technically organic. It ain't been pinned. It's been eating acorns, nuts, and grains, and whatever it's finding that it does as a wild hog. And this is pretty good game animal. Again, this is Creole Ken showing you the final product of wild boar hunting or trapping and how I do it. Hope you enjoy. Bon appetit.